Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast in season 2024. Only the 2 games this past weekend, so it'll be a bit of a shorter episode than usual, but still plenty of action to unpack in the world of WAFL. Paul Persick with you along with Ethan Roth. A couple of very important games this past weekend as far as Final 5 ramifications are concerned.
Yeah, a bit of a condensed round, Paul, as you said. Great to be back. And one surprise result, I guess you could say, although Claremont had to pull their finger out, and one surprise that we probably did see coming, but nevertheless, it was a still exciting round.
Certainly was. Round 4, we're into the first month of the season, and a lot of great highlights that were shown over the weekend in the 2 games that we had. Pure Thunder over the West Coast Eagles and Claremont over Subiaco. We'll break down those games in a little bit more detail later on in the show and give you the Player of the Year votes. You're live on the YouTube channel of Around the WAFL and where you get your podcast, and you can also check us out on socials as well. But here's how you can win big at the WAFL.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, nah, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Yes, plenty of big win-wins so far this season, and there'll be more to come. Let's go to our guest today. Of course, he starred in Claremont's first win of the season, a 21-point win over Subiaco at Revo Fitness Stadium. Lachlan Martinis, Claremont's key defender, is good enough to join us here today. Lockie, how are you, mate?
Good, guys. How you going?
Going very well. Great to have you here on the show. It was an important game, wasn't it, Lockie, from the outset? Because after 3 straight losses, obviously there was a lot of questions surrounding where Claremont were going to be in 2024, but it must be good to get the monkey off the back.
Yeah, definitely. Massive relief. Obviously, starting 0-3, you start to get a bit nervous, get a bit stressed. So getting that big win, I can start to get the ball rolling now. Obviously up against a very good team against Subi, so we had to really play our best. But yeah, big relief, but we're kind of building from the last sort of half against South Fred, so we knew we could play some good footy.
And you were crucial yourself in the spine, taking 9 marks inside defensive 50. You take that, I'd imagine?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Sometimes it's nice to get on a couple of end of the marks. I guess it's my turn to get the marks there in the back line. Normally it's sort of Anthony Davis or one of those bigger blokes, but it was nice to get a couple.
Was the added responsibility placed on you, obviously with Tia Miles leaving the club at the start of this season, and also Declan Mountford being injured and missing until at least after the bye? Did you feel that there was some added responsibility in that back 6 put on you?
I don't know. Not necessarily. I mean, I guess I've been around a little while now. I'm now one of the kind of senior players in the group, so there's always that responsibility. But yeah, I guess to tag on, there's a bit more freedom for myself to get more of the footy. So I guess that freed me up a little bit.
How much is the peroxide blonde hair playing a part in your success?
Yeah, I don't know if it's played much success. It's definitely getting a few comments here and there. I don't know. It makes me... Yeah, I'm not really sure about it, to be honest. I don't know how much longer it's going to hang around.
Yeah. Must be a bit of a trend in WAFL football in 2024. Players getting the peroxide blonde hair. Of course, yourself, along with Perth forward Sam Stubbs as well, getting amongst the trend as well. But getting back to this game, obviously against Subiaco, it was a must-win. You got off to a good start in the first half. You didn't give Subiaco a chance to really get back into it until at least that last quarter. It was a 3-1 last quarter. But at 3-quarter time, 5 goals ahead. Was the message there just chew up some time as much as possible and play that possession game, or was it more of the same for the first 3 quarters?
I don't think the message necessarily changed. I mean, I guess we didn't play overly attacking in that last quarter. We kind of parked the bus to a degree, but we would have liked to have been a bit more attacking in the final quarter, but I think it's just the way it panned out, and Subi really put us under the pump, so it was pretty good just that final siren to go, to be honest.
And looking ahead to round 6 against Swans, they're obviously fresh, coming off a bye, so you need to be on your A game again to stop them.
Yeah, definitely. Swan District's always a really tricky team. They've got a elite midfield. They've got some really elite players, so it's going to be a massive test.
Now, before we let you go, Lockie, of course, this week your boys have got the bye. You know, a couple of nice days off to relax the mind ahead of the big game against the Swans in round 6.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be nice to have a weekend off, maybe go watch some local footy or something like that and just chill out for a bit, get ready to go for the next little chunk of the season. Absolutely.
Fantastic stuff, Lockie. All the very best to you in round 6 in a couple of weeks' time. Enjoy the week off and congrats on a great game that you played in defence on Saturday against Subiaco. Thanks for your time, Lockie. We really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
That was Lachlan Martinis, Claremont defender, joining us here on Around the WAFL. It was a vital role that Lachlan Martinis played on Saturday. 9 marks, 22 disposals. And, you know, being one of the senior players in the squad, you know, you don't feel that there is that urgent responsibility, but you've still got a big task against a Subiaco forward line that, keep in mind, was without Ben Sokol.
Yeah, and they were pretty potent as well. I know they missed Sokol, as you said, but still Jack Mayo bobbed up, so he still had his hands full and a bit undersized, but what he lacked in size, he certainly made up in contribution to the team.
There was a big contribution he made to the Tigers, a big win for them. We'll review the game in detail in just a moment. First of all, Waffle Wonderland this week is on Anzac Day.
G'day, Barry here. This Anzac Day, watch the Demons and the Royals at Lachlan. Free entry for RSLWA members. It's waffle footy with a wonderland of food trucks, giveaways, DJ and kids activities. Tickets at waffle.com.au.
Yes, that will be a big game. We'll preview that on Anzac Day, our special Anzac Day edition of Around the WAFL. You can check that out when it drops on Thursday. But we're going to review the 2 games that took place in round 4, starting off with the Waffle Derby, if you will, the alignment derby, so to speak, between the West Coast Eagles and Peel Thunder. And Peel Thunder had a bit of a slow start. The Eagles really got the jump early in that first quarter, even though goals were at a premium, Ethan. Then really Peel Thunder just started to come back into life, 4 goals, and then they would add another 13 in the second half for a massive 18-15 to 7-13 win.
Yeah, they were really overrun despite a good start, weren't they? We sort of predicted this to an extent. You know, the same old names for Peel Thunder. Brody led the way. You know, I think Peel was suited a bit more to Optus with the big wins. Obviously, both teams had AFL listed players out there, but yeah, just a lot of good display from Peel, who sort of needed to bounce back after the loss to Subiaco previously.
Yeah, Peel Thunder needed a big performance like that, even though it was against an Eagles side who had a couple of AFL players and were up and about following the upset over the reigning premiers a couple of weeks ago. But Peel Thunder, they used the big ground very well, 28 more inside 50s. And you spoke of Will Brodie. I think that was one of his best games. I think the Dockers selectors need to be serious on him. You know, 33 possessions, 5 marks, 7 inside 50s. He played those big wings of Optus Stadium like a fish to water. He was absolutely incredible and was efficient every time he had the ball in his hand. He's a high-impact midfielder, and he's proving such again.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a while, and I saw the fend off and then the goal from 50. That probably was just the cream on top of his day. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you know, his form and how he probably should be looked at for the next level.
Liam Reedy and the ruck, again, dominant. I mean, wait till they meet Claremont. Wait till they meet Claremont later this season. That could be a huge battle. Liam Reedy versus Oliver Eastland in the ruck.
It could be, yeah, especially with the way Eastland, you know, is able to hit the scoreboard, as we'll probably touch on. But, yeah, both in ripping form.
I mean, his follow-up work, Liam Reedy, has been very important this season. I mean, he had only the 12 disposals, but 4 marks and 4 tackles and contributing a couple of inside 50s. You know, it's not just the numbers that tell the story, it's how impactful your contribution is, and Liam Reedy certainly made that count on Saturday.
Absolutely, and he's probably, you know, just waiting and waiting for that opportunity at the next level. If he just keeps on doing it, you know, it'll come. And yeah, just I guess a reflection of Peel Thunder's day as a whole. One player I'm really impressed by, just week to week, just going strength from strength, is Corey Tregenza.
Corey Tregenza
looks like he's just getting confidence at league level by the week, and you know, wasn't overawed by the occasion of playing on Optus Stadium.
I was very impressed. I'm very impressed with his development. You know, coming over from the Colts team a couple of years ago, he was a goal-kicking machine. He was a real revelation. You know, he's got that opportunity in the league side, kicked 2 goals, but of course was part of a huge scoring spread that Peel Thunder had on Saturday. 7 great marks in the 50 as well. He's a good marking forward, can kick an average 2 or 3 goals per game. So his consistency has been a real key for Peel Thunder's forward 6.
Yeah, not only him, but, you know, you've got Taj Wybird, who we obviously had on the show. 23 disposals, 8 marks. So I don't know if we can take a bit of credit for his success having him on the show, but
maybe raised his confidence a little bit.
Shout out to Taj.
Nah, he did very well. 10 inside 50s as well. So the supply to the forwards and the likes of Patrick Voss, who kicked 3, and also Corey Tregenza, who kicked 2, was absolutely magnificent. So well done to Taj Whitebird. Great performance from him. 10 inside 50s as well to go with his 8 marks and 23 disposals. On the other side of the coin, the West Coast Eagles, the margin isn't very flattering. You know, there's been a lot of talk about their form, but it has to be said, some of the younger players who are not AFL listed and, still looking for that possible opportunity to go onto an AFL list, I reckon have made much more of an impact than what we would have expected. Talk about Zane True with 27 disposals and 6 tackles. I think he's among the best in the current crop of the WAFL Eagles.
Oh, absolutely. And, he's someone who has got the opportunity at the top level, and he's had a bit of sort of things to work through off field, but he racks up the footy, and he's still only 21, so he's still got a lot of development I feel to come.
Absolutely.
And I think another player, Trey Rusco, I've been really amazed by him, sort of playing a lone hand up in the forward line, kicking multiple goals a week. It's probably unfortunate that no one's really coming along on the ride with him, but he can hold his head up high.
No, Rusco, he had a pretty decent performance. Credit where credit's due for him. 7 marks as well. But again, the Eagles, they were just overrun. They were just overrun after half-time. And Peel Thunder, their depth and class are just too strong in the end. And they stand clear atop the ladder, and they deserve to be. And I said this last year, that Peel Thunder have got the balance much better between the Dockers listed players and the local players, so to speak. I mean, when they won their back-to-back premierships, about 85 to 90% of Peel players were Fremantle listed, but around about 10 or 11 in that game, in each game on average for Peel Thunder, the balance is a whole lot better than what it was in those premiership years.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's a lot more even now, and they're forging a sort of more of a Peel identity rather than a sort of solely Dockers identity, as you said in the past. So you don't look at that team immediately think Dockers. You look at guys, as we've mentioned already, but your Selwoods, your Nesbitts, your Tregenzas, it's your Blights. Like, the list does go on, and they're really making their own mark at WAFL level.
It's a real stacked side, Peel Thunder. Their depth at both ends of the ground is absolutely excellent. And Adam Reid, of course, record first season as coach. Can't go any better at the moment. Top of the ladder after the first month of the season. That was, of course, a big win for Peel Thunder over the West Coast Eagles at Optus Stadium. The second game, of course, on the Saturday, Claremont and Subiaco. A lot of expectations were riding on the game for both sides, but with Claremont getting off to a very slow start. They conceded the first 2 goals of the first quarter, but then they really started to click into gear after quarter time, 4 goals to 2, and then they just went on with the business. 78 to 57, the final score in favour of the Tigers, their first win of the season.
Off the mark, so they would have been fired up, no doubt. There's no way they were ever going to let themselves be 0-4 in their mind. So, just off the back of Ollie Eastland, to be honest, continued dominance, not only doing his ruck work, but his goal kicking. I mean, from long range,
2 goals.
Banana. I mean, what can't he do at this stage?
I'll say he should be the Sandover medal favourite right now. I mean, even though Claremont have only won the 1 game, they've had 2 close losses and 1 very bad one in round 2. Ollie Eastland just continues to get himself up to the top of that Sandover contention, because not only is ruck work, he's able to get those hit-outs, 44 of them to be exact, but his follow-up work isn't rated high enough. His follow-up work is so important for Claremont and their fellow on ball brigade. 21 disposals, 5 marks and 9 tackles. Impressive numbers, but how he does it. He's high impact every time he goes near the footy.
And making the most of, no disrespect, probably not a number 1 ruck contender from Subiaco, or a dominant one in that sense. So, yeah, I think the Lions just looked a bit out of place. The second and third quarter was really pivotal for the Tigers. They were really set up during the middle part of the game.
You're absolutely right. And you talk about Subi's forward line. Of course, Ben Sokol being managed. As it turned out, a few niggling calf issues for Ben Sokol. That's the reason that he was kept out of the game. So Jack Mayo was left to pretty much do the heavy lifting of that Subiaco forward line, because when Mayo and Sokol are playing in tandem inside that 50, they get a lot more scoreboard pressure. It wasn't as much with Jack Mayo being that only key forward for Subiaco on Saturday.
Yeah, and they brought in Campbell Henderson, who was on debut, who you can't expect to just fill the shoes of Ben Sokol straight away. I don't think anyone can really do that. So, a bit more inexperience for the Lions, but ultimately, I think when you're 6+ goals down and, they have that late surge like they did, I think it's just a bit too hard to come back from, a bit too hard to claw back.
Yeah, the forward line battle was overwhelmingly in favour of Claremont in that game, and also with Subiaco being 6 goals down, it's always hard to come back, and especially it's always hard to come back from that margin if you haven't got a potent forward line. And you talk about Claremont in contrast, Waterman and Manuel, 6 goals between them, another good showing. I mean, that's the forward combination that could lift Claremont back up into contention later down the track.
The Watermans are going right around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aren't they?
Jake Waterman, of course, another big bag in the Western Derby.
Yeah. And Zach Mainwaring did a knee injury, I believe. So
it was a tibia and fibula, as it turned out. I spoke with Zach in the rooms after the game. Not serious as first thought. He should be okay after the bye for the game against Swan Districts in round 6. But any further information will keep our listeners right up to date. But that was a huge blow. That was a huge blow for Claremont at the time because he's a very valuable player, good in and under player, can play a little bit in the wing as well, got good pace across the ground. But his loss was covered very, very well by the likes of Callan England, who shifted up the ground a little bit, Jai Bolton, one of his better games so far this season, Bailey Rogers. He was moved to defence, Bailey Rogers, when the chips were down, and that was a great move by Ashley Prescott, and it shows how versatile the former Sandover medalist is.
Absolutely, and that's the key. Successful teams, you lose a soldier, and that you're able to bring someone in or move the magnets to fill the void, as they were able to do for Mainwaring. And you actually look at the stats, and both teams got their hands on the ball pretty evenly. So I think it was just obviously the execution and Claremont's ability to pump the ball forward. But in the midfield, Luke Foley probably had his best game for Subiaco.
Yeah, 28 touches. He's been very good.
He's been very consistent the whole year, though. Like I say, it's his best game, but it's not as if he's been quiet. He's kind of been doing it and sort of, I guess, playing second fiddle to your Greg Clark's. But I think the weekend was probably his best outing yet.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, Luke Foley, whenever he's got the football, he's able to deliver and execute to perfection most of the time. And, he really puts in that grunt inside as an in and under midfielder. 9 inside 50s as well, along with 7 tackles. So definitely his best game so far, but no doubt Subi will be looking for a big lift in round 6 against East Fremantle.
And he hits the scoreboard as well. I know he kicked 0 goals too, but I think up until, this point, he kicked Subiaco's first goal in almost every game so far. So he starts the game well and really sets the tone for them.
He does, but just needed that little extra backup. Greg Clark only had the 22, so did Lee Kitchen in that on-ball brigade. Will Hickmott and Ryan Borchett had 16 touches each as well. It was a bit of a downer for Subiaco, of course, in that game. 21 points the margin in favour of Claremont over Subiaco at Revo Fitness Stadium. Okay, before we go to the Player of the Year votes, the ladder as it stands after the first month of the season. Of course, only the 2 games played in the round, so teams will be on an uneven number of games after 4 rounds. Peel Thunder clear on top on 12 points, and then you've got a logjam of 5 teams on 8 points. East Perth, South Fremantle, West Perth, Subiaco, and Perth. Swan Districts, Claremont, and the West Coast Eagles on 4 points, and what could this be? How could this be? East Fremantle still on 0 points, obviously with the salary cap breach and the penalty that was introduced, enacted off-season, and of course the loss to the West Coast Eagles. Interesting first month of the season, hasn't it been, Ethan?
It has been. There's a lot of teams, around that middle part of the table. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but yeah, East Fremantle, I mean, they want to get moving. I know they obviously, won that game very convincingly over Claremont, but at the end of the day, they're on 0 points, regardless whether the penalty was fair or not.
And I said this last week. There's no other option for them but to hand out a big win over Swan Districts. They need to hand out a smashing over the Swans if they want to truly convince everybody that they're going to be back in contention. But that remains to be seen, and we'll preview that game on our special Anzac Day edition of Around the WAFL. But first off, here's how you can win big.
Win. Win. Almost a win. Win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
And speaking of big wins, it's time for the Player of the Year votes. Now, of course, only 2 games were played, so we must point this out. There will be players from all clubs involved this week and, of course, for round 5 as well because of the number of games that have been played. Let's start it off. 1 vote from the West Coast Eagles, Zane True. I mean, definitely the best of the bunch in that current West Coast Eagles list. I mean, 21 years of age, and he's still got a lot of years of development left in him, and he proved that he's going to be a solid player for the Eagles in the future. And if he gets an AFL opportunity, I reckon, especially in the mid-season draft, he can take it with both hands. Great performance he had against Peel Thunder. Yeah, absolutely. 2 votes. Our guest from earlier, Lachlan Martinis, great role he had down back, 9 marks, really shut down that Subiaco forward line, was really the enforcer in that defensive 15. He played that role brilliantly. 3 votes from Subiaco. Luke Foley from the Lions. I thought he was magnificent. Definitely his best game, and he really got things started for Subiaco in that centre clearance department as well. So he played very well. 4 votes. Will Brodie of Peel Thunder. Like Luke Foley from Subiaco, I reckon that was Will Brodie's best game so far this season for Peel Thunder. Really racked up the disposals. His presence in midfield, very, very valuable. And the Around the Waffle top gun of round 4, 5 votes from Claremont, Ollie Eastland in the ruck. The best ruckman in the competition. At the moment, it's absolutely astounding. I find it astounding myself that I didn't give him more votes. I should have maybe given him more votes, but he gets the top gun for the week. Definitely a sensational performance from Ollie Eastland, 44 hit-outs, but the way he went after it, his desperation in following up his ruck efforts, very, very impressive from big Ollie Eastland. So he gets a well-deserved 5 votes.
Hard to disagree there, and I know Claremont fans will be happy with the 2 players out of the 5, albeit obviously only 2 games. But just looking at the run sheet as well, Lachlan Martinis' peroxide blonde hair, you can't miss it. Just stands out.
It's everywhere.
So can only imagine how it looks on the field.
Could this be a trend? You know, could the peroxide blonde hair be a trend of maybe better performances from a player and or a team? Maybe
there's a lot of guys doing it. Jason Carter has done it in the past.
That's right.
Obviously South Freo, Talon DeLacy, teammate of Lockie. So it's gone around a bit.
It is starting to catch on. Waffle players with the peroxide blonde hair catching on. Maybe a good omen for our players and teams, but only time will tell. That does it for today's edition of Around the Waffle. A little bit of a condensed one because of only the 2 games that were played, but don't forget we are going to preview the big 5th round of competition, Anzac Day edition. The round, of course, starts on Thursday, so be sure to catch all the action for that. You can check us out on our socials as well, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and also where you get your podcasts. Ethan, great job from you as always. I'll see you on Anzac Day.
Will do. Anzac Day, one of the best days on the calendar to celebrate footy-wise, so look forward to it.
No doubt about it. Listeners, we'll see you on Anzac Day for more waffle action.